Hello, everybody, and welcome to the League Bound podcast, where we discuss rising college draft prospects and the rising stars of the NBA. I'm your co host, Branden Blue, and today I'm here with my guys, Cameron King and Jake Schrantz. How are y'all feeling today?
I'm excited. We got basketball back finally, so I've been in a great place.
Yeah, last episode we focused a little bit more on the college prospects, but I'm excited to get into the NBA rookies today because we've seen a lot of impressive performances so far in the preseason.
Yeah, Jake kind of led right into it. It's still very early, obviously, preseason, but with the new draft cycle, now we're going to talk about some of the NBA rookies, and then at the end, we're going to talk about some of the second-year players who we maybe want to see a little more from or could maybe take another step. Really exciting time because I think the scouting process doesn't necessarily end when they get drafted, as you guys know. It continues once they get into the league and the years after that. But this rookie class is really exciting for a lot of reasons. I mean, Cooper Flag, Ace Bailey have been generating a lot of buzz, and it's just preseason. And Dylan Harper, I don't know, I haven't looked at his minutes fully, but I did watch his game yesterday, and he looked really, really good in that preseason game against the Pacers. That top five group, and even the guys after that, it feels like there's just so much talent. But with the top three specifically, and I know I kind of brought it up before we went live, this is such an interesting year because we're seeing top three players who could end up they've ended up in very competitive situations to start out. Like you have VJ on the Sixers, Cooper on the Mavericks with AD and then Kyrie whenever he comes back. And then you have Dylan Harper on the Spurs, and he looks like he's going to be one of their kind of cornerstones. I just wanted to open the floor and talk to you guys about, seeing all these rookies and all this young talent competing early on. Like, what do you guys think that could do for their games, and ultimately, how much more exciting does this make the Rookie of the Year race?
To me, it makes it super exciting because I feel like a lot of years you get guys that's like, guys that kind of be neck and neck, but you just kind of give it to the guy who wins more. And it's like, if it's close. I think this year they should all be in like, Brandon, I'm sorry, beside. I don't know. We got to see about the 76ers, but they, if everything goes healthy, they should all be in pretty good situations here at the end of the year. So I think it'll give us more time to evaluate guys. Like a lot of years, I think check out kind of early because the race is kind of won pretty much around All-Star break. So
Yeah, I'm going to be interested to see how kind of the dichotomy is for some of these rookies who are on still rebuilding teams versus someone like a Cooper Flag or Dylan Harper who are going to be playing to win every single game. And in terms of the Rookie of the Year battle, I think they're going to get credit for being part of winning and making winning plays. But, the box score watchers might see someone like Trey Johnson go average almost 20 points per game, which is going to be really impressive from a rookie. But if it's not leading to winning, and maybe a guy like Dylan Harper is coming off the bench for some of the year and he's averaging 13 points, it doesn't look as impressive, but maybe his minutes are really contributing to a lot of winning for San Antonio. So I'm very interested to see how the voters specifically in 2025 kind of balance and value both sides of a rookie season.
Yeah, I think, I mentioned VJ, but really I feel like the race is going to come down to Dylan and Cooper more than likely, but we'll see if that changes. But they both, and even the little that we have seen, they both have just looked so polished. But I think with Dylan and Cooper, I think things are going to be kind of a little bit different because the Spurs, when you kind of look at their roster and how they're constructed, like not only do they have Wemby, but it does kind of remind me a lot of the Thunder in a way, just because they have long kind of wings and guards who can handle the ball, dribble, shoot, defend a little bit. Like Honestly, I don't know if this is right, but off the top of my head, I want to say that the Spurs, like, they might even have longer wings and guards than the Thunder do. But I feel like, what were
I
you
think
gonna
it might
say?
be a, I think it might be a little shorter, but like wingspan wise, it might be like competitive. Like it might be similar, but I think the Spurs kind of have more like guard wings than like guard
Yeah,
first, wing second. Thunder might have a little more wing guard kind of players.
yeah. But it to me, I think there's a lot of kind of similarities just in terms of makeup of the team and kind of trajectory they're heading. And for Harper, like, I think he could very easily get like start at any point, but I'm kind of like they have De'Aaron Fox, Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell. Um, they have so many like good young pieces that
Stephon Castle too.
yeah, I forgot Stephon Castle. Like him coming off the bench, I think that might kind of be how it is for most of the season. But you guys can butt in if you think differently.
I could see it, or I could see just because like the Spurs have a young coach, and young coaches tend to like try a lot of different things. I could see like him wanting to experiment with like three guard lineups, like go Castle, Fox, and Harper at certain times. But I think he'll probably spend most of the time on the bench. I think, to be honest, that's like if like I'm like a TJ McConnell or like Peyton Pritchard, like a backup point guard in the league. It's like, why do I have to deal with this kid? Like that should definitely be starting. That's like a starting caliber talent. But he's gonna get to feast against like a lot of smaller guards, a lot of guards that just like aren't as explosive that you have to guard on offense. I think he'll have a really fun year off the bench.
Yeah, it's gonna be one of those rare moments where you have a star player playing like, or what's the saying when you have a star player playing like a role player? But I think you guys know what I'm trying to say. Like, I don't, obviously for his career, I don't think he's gonna be there that whole time. But his rookie year, I think the fact that that might be a real possibility for him, and obviously he's gonna get some run with the starting rotation a little bit. But I think that does kind of make this Spurs team a little bit more dangerous. And like obviously Wemby is a big part of their ceiling, but I think the fact that they have so much versatility, so much talent, yeah, I think it's only a matter of time before they take over.
So it's a matter of time. Are we saying over and under 41 games he starts this year?
I would say for Dylan, I don't know how much it's going to be about him starting, but I definitely could see it taking less games than what you said in terms of him being on the floor as part of a closing lineup, whether it's kind of like what you guys were saying, where we could see lineups where it's Fox, Castle, and Dylan Harper. I could see that being something where maybe they don't start a game that way, but depending on the matchup that night, that could be a very favorable closing matchup because you've got three ball handlers who are obviously competent and very good in that role. But then you also have Victor Wembanyama, who's attracting all of the defensive attention. So I see that as a closing lineup that's going to be very, very hard. Not the same style as the Warriors' death lineup that they went to with small ball, but in the way that that was like their best lineup, but not necessarily their starting lineup. I could see that happening for San Antonio.
Yeah, I just think it's going to be hard to keep him off the floor because he does the one thing that like some of their other guards don't. Like Castle's okay at it last year. Keldon and Vassell still haven't really figured this part out yet. But like the best thing you can do as a Spurs guard is get the ball to him. And he's like so far in the preseason, like they've seen to like really have a good chemistry. Like they've connected on a few lobs so far. He seems to like he's able to make that post entry pass pretty easy, kind of gets Vic the ball where he wants it. So I could definitely see him like you said, Jake, like he might not start that many games, but I think it's gonna just be hard to keep him off the floor.
It would be funny if we're talking about all this and then by game 3 they announce him as a starter. But I'll take the blame for that because I kind of initiated this segment. But watching preseason, that was something that jumped out at me. It's like, will they be in a rush to put him in the starting lineup? But you never know. But going across the state, or I don't know if it's really even across, but going to Dallas, we have Cooper Flag, who it's a little bit different of a situation. They kind of have a little bit of an older timeline right now, just kind of where things are. AD, Kyrie coming off that ACL. We don't know when he'll be back for certain. But the early kind of vibe I'm getting from the Mavericks and just listening to their Jason Kidd talk in interviews, this is going to be a very defensive minded team. And when you look at the roster, I think that makes sense. But it's different because Cooper Flag it's interesting, and this might kind of be a hot take, I don't know. But watching some of their preseason games, it did feel like there were moments where it looked like he was the best offensive player. And if I had said that a year ago, I would have been blown away, because I think the offense was the biggest question mark I had about his game coming into the season. But no, it really looked like that, because the passes that he makes, he got some run at point guard last night. I didn't see all of it fully, but I'm sure it went well just seeing some of his other games. The jump shot continues to look really, really good, even at this level. I'm interested to kind of get your guys' thoughts on what you've seen from him so far.
Yeah, I've been really impressed. Like, just the rate that he keeps getting better at. Like, it seems like every time you see him, it's like there's only like a few guys like this in the league that, like, every time you see them, they get better at something. Like, something is like drastically better than it was last time you saw him. I think like guys that come to mind, like Anthony Edwards, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Giannis to some extent. Like, he started not being really able to pass or really shoot that well, and he's kind of extended his game in certain ways. Like, Cooper seems to have that gene of just like always adding stuff to his game. It looks like his handle is dramatically better than what it was the last time we seen it. He's making good passes, making good reads. He looks really good out there. He has a team around him too that's like going to make it hard to just solely focus on him. Like, I remember like Patrick Beverley like just picking on Lonzo his first game. It's going to be hard to devote that much attention to Cooper just because how good his team is. However, I did notice teams like stacking the paint a lot just because of how big they are. And it's kind of funny, they've already kind of moved AD to center in one of the games as an adjustment to kind of combat it. But yeah, he's just looked good, to be honest, all the way around.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up AD at the end there, because he's got a lot of players to work with, and that's why the offense looks good. But what's it going to look like when AD inevitably is off the floor for whatever type of injury, right? The team is very good, and Kyrie is still injured and working back. So I'm excited. We still haven't even seen the full capability of Cooper Flag in his rookie year, because with his ball handling and his play creation, I'm so excited to see what that looks like alongside Kyrie Irving, because you've got two initiators. One of them is only about 6'2", but he's probably the best ball handler that's ever played in the NBA. And then you have a 6'8", 6'9" Cooper Flag who can be that secondary creator and just create total mismatch for Dallas offensively. So he's looked very impressive so far. I like that they're giving him that point guard ability as well, because when you guys really think about it, other than some center, is there any best player on a championship team that isn't a primary ball handler? I feel like that's where Cooper Flag's best ceiling is at, as the main guy down the stretch that's handling it and operating the pick and roll. So I feel like they're taking that stretch early so that his development goes as quick as possible.
Yeah, and it's definitely something that's just straight out of Jason Kidd playbook. Is if you have a big wing, you put him at point guard and you let him learn how to do it. And I think it's worked out. Like, for Giannis, he definitely did it with him. It didn't always look great at times, but I think if you look at how good of a passer Giannis has become, how he finds kickouts, how he can like kind of manipulate the defense in certain ways while mainly still using his threat to score as like the main generator for his playmaking. I think if Cooper can develop that like at a similar like earlier in his career than Giannis did, I think it can just like open up a lot more doors for him down the line later in his career.
I'm glad you kind of brought that up, because one thing that I noticed with Flag, and one thing that really like made me even higher on him last year, was it feels like he already has the processing to be able to kind of do that. Whereas Giannis, he was a bit more raw. He didn't really have the ball in his hands like that, if I remember correctly. But from that standpoint, I think that could make him so much more dangerous, just as a playmaker. And, when he does kind of start to reach his peak. And I think now it does kind of look a little bit better because, he does have other weapons around him, like we mentioned, and that's not even with Kyrie back yet. But I think it does kind of make him so much more intriguing because he's already shown such a good understanding and IQ of the game already that he's kind of just a threat anywhere. And like, add that with the scoring ability, yeah, it's gonna get real nasty.
Yeah, like I think it'll be pretty good in the long run for him. In the short term, I will say like it is the preseason. I do expect like teams to like throw some really funky stuff at him that he hasn't seen before, and like it's gonna look rough at times. Like so, I expect for like some bad moments, like fans kind of turning on him at times. But I think in the long run, it'll just be better for his career. I think guys that like have gone like a similar path, like Tatum got the keys kind of early. Like he had like a year or two where like he had to sit behind like Kyrie and like they were like more the main guys. But he got the torch like in his like second or third or fourth year, I want to say. And he really like has kind of become like that point forwardish role for the Celtics a lot. Like they don't really like they had Drew Holiday, but like he's not exactly your traditional point guard. So like I think like similar growth patterns here for Flag are available, and he just had this year's like they want to win obviously, and if you let Nico tell it, they think they can win the championship this year. But I think really just taking this first year is like, hey, throw him in a fire, get to see the stuff you haven't seen before now. That way later down the line, everything else becomes.
And a big thing for him is going to be the perimeter shot early in the season, because if he's working in a ball screen and the first month in the season, if he's shooting 28% from three, they're going to start dropping on those screens every time and daring him to shoot. And if he can't work out of it, it's going to make things a lot harder for him as a playmaker. But if out of the gate, if he's shooting plus 35%, like that just creates so many more problems with the coverage defensively. You can drop it off on a little pick and dive to the rim to Anthony Davis or one of the other bigs. I think Derek Lively and Cooper Flag is going to be so awesome to watch. The way that he's such a lob threat. Cooper's passing ability is obviously so strong. So yeah, ton of exciting stuff coming.
They both have like weirdly good pass feel. Like Derek Lively's like a pretty good short roll passer, especially for how young he is. And the fact that like Cooper is going to learn how to operate the pick and roll, and that he's already good at being like that Derek Lively spot where like he sets the screen also and can like short roll pass. I think it'll unlock a lot of things down the line for Jason Kidd's offense where he could like use those guys in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, I feel like I could keep going about Cooper, but I think we also have to talk about another rookie up in Utah. Ace Bailey, I think he probably had one of the funniest draft storylines just with, his agent and, that whole thing. He has since dropped him, by the way. It wasn't really necessary, but I felt like sharing that. But for him, he has looked like a very different, I don't want to say a very different player, but he's being utilized in a much different way than he was in college. It makes you kind of realize, like, we all kind of knew, I think, at the time that the situation in Rutgers wasn't ideal, but when you kind of see him in Will Hardy's system and how he's utilizing his strengths, like, it really does make him look that much better. And I think it was during the film breakdown, we kind of talked a lot about how the off-ball stuff was going to be really dangerous for him. And again, it's preseason, and like once the regular season starts, I doubt it'll look as beautiful as it has now, but it's all just about like building those reps to where, he can reach get closer to his ceiling. And I am pretty happy about the way he's being utilized, and, him in the NBA style spacing, I think it is a lot better for his game.
Yeah, it's definitely like highlighting what he does well. Like right now, he doesn't dribble the best, but like he's already coming to the league. He's like an elite shooter, especially for his size. And Will Hardy, he runs good stuff, to be honest. And it's showing right now, like Ace is, it looks totally different than when it looked at Rutgers. Like it's almost an indictment on that Rutgers staff. Like the amount of space he has to operate and like it's allowing him to play a much more streamlined version of his game. And I think like the more Hardy gets used to what he can do, I think the more creative stuff he can draw up for him. And it looks like he's in a really good spot to have a pretty productive year out the gate.
Yeah, one of the biggest things in the draft leading up to it for Ace Bailey was the efficiency. You've got obviously flashing the talent, but it was some games where he's kind of chucking shots that you didn't really need. That's something we talked about a lot in the film breakdown was shots early in the shot clock. But in these preseason games, I mean, I think I saw one, maybe his last game, he was like 9 of 16 from the floor, and is doing it on the perimeter as well. These aren't just layups and dunks the whole time. So if he can continue to be this pretty efficient perimeter player, I think a lot of the rest of the game is going to fill in throughout the season. More opportunities when guys are closing out on him to drive the closeout and get into the paint, maybe drive and kick or rise up over guys for a huge poster, which we also saw in college at Rutgers. He's very capable of doing.
Yeah, how do you guys feel about like the juxtaposition between the situations Cooper and Ace are in? Like personally, I feel like it's almost like a reverse of their college experience, where like Cooper was put in a super optimized position that like kind of highlighted his strengths while he was able to work on his weaknesses. To where Ace was kind of just like thrown out there and like kind of thrown into the fire. Where I think almost in the NBA it's almost reversed, where like Ace is in a really good system and Cooper's kind of being pushed to do things he's more uncomfortable with.
No, I definitely see it. And I know we talked about it a little bit before, but I think it works now, especially because for Cooper, I think he kind of got put into a situation where, like you mentioned, it allowed him to work on his strengths. And I think he's gotten to, fill out those areas of his game. And I think he's gotten so good at those that now, and obviously it's still preseason, like we've said 100 times, but him being able to be in a system now where he can really capitalize and just kind of have the freedom to do it, it feels like it's more fitting for him. Whereas Ace, when he was in college, it felt like he had a little bit. And again, I think it's just more of the coaching and the situation, but it felt like he almost had a little bit too much reign. And it's like, okay, maybe let's, try to give him a clear, what's the word? Let's kind of give him more structure, And I think where they're at now, it definitely makes sense. And in the long term, I think it'll be better for them because Cooper, I think he got so good at those areas and showed so much improvement that it's like, okay, now I think you have the ability to do this. Whereas Ace, it's like he just kind of needed a little more refinement.
I think it's going to be interesting and pretty important for Ace in his development that he's like, when you think about him at Rutgers, other than Dylan Harper, they knew they were by far the best players on the team. But he's coming to Utah, a team that's probably going to win less than 25 games this year. And he's looking around at practice and he's still not even the best player on his team and not even the best shooter. I mean, I don't know if you guys have been seeing what Bryce Sensabaugh has been doing in the preseason, but that guy's probably going to shoot over 40% from three this season. He's an unreal perimeter shooter. So I think that aspect of it, of him figuring out that he still has more development to go and not just stepping in and instantly being the best player like he did at his high school team and at college. I'm excited to see if that changes some of his mindset and his development when we get going.
Yeah, I just want to make it clear, like, I'm not saying, like, Cooper wasn't pushed at Duke. Like, they made him uncomfortable there, too. Like, he definitely had to, like, take on some more on-ball stuff than he did in high school. I just think, like, it was kind of to a different level. Like, he was kind of always a little more safe, insulated with how Duke's roster was and the talent on that team. So it's just an interesting thing I've noticed so far. But someone else that was drafted pretty high that's shown some flashes in preseason, Branden, for your team, VJ Edgecombe, what has your reaction been to him so far?
I mean, the offense, it hasn't been like great, but I think with him, you kind of knew that was just going to be a little bit more of a work in progress. But I think everything else, the tenacity, the energy he brings, the athleticism, it's really fun to watch. And I didn't see all of our games, so I didn't fully see. I think I watched the very first one, but yeah, I'm excited for him. And I really just want to see how he looks when Embiid and George come back. There is some buzz that Embiid could be ready for next week because he just played in like the team scrimmage that we had this past weekend, but nothing official. So I'm hoping Embiid is ready to go. But yeah, Edgecombe he's a guy who I'm happy for just because of the athleticism. He plays the game the right way, and I feel like with him, he's definitely got some room to grow. But I have no doubt that he's gonna improve like as the years go on, if that makes sense. And like I really buy into him as a shooter as well, even though it hasn't. I'm not saying he's gonna be like a 40% shooter, but I think he can be a threat out there. And you mix that with his athleticism, I'm like really excited for him and what he can bring. I just want to see how it looks when we're, fully healthy. But that's every Sixers fan, I guess. So,
Brandon, I want to ask you, because my biggest takeaway from VJ Edgecombe so far was first trying to rise up for a poster and not getting it. And then I think he ended up getting an actual poster the next game. So do you think there's any possibility we could see a VJ Edgecombe rookie season dunk contest appearance? Because I feel like that'd be electric.
Wholeheartedly. I mean, we all saw that dunk he had against Gonzaga.
Oh yeah,
we know he can get up there, and I think he has during the off season. When you get bored and you want to watch some hoops, you go on the YouTube, you scroll up them little highlights. He has like a 10-minute Big 12 or. He has a 10-minute Big 12 dunking highlight reel. And so I think for sure the NBA spacing, we all know you got more room to do some damage. I think it's very possible.
Yeah, VJ and Johnny Furphy. That's going to be two of your favorite guys, actually. That's going to be an electric final two in the dunk contest.
Yeah, that one he had the other day, the game before the Spurs. I think he's had one like every game almost. So, yeah. Okay. And then outside of the top five, obviously there have still been some other rookies who have performed in preseason. Overall, I think when we were kind of scouting this class, this was one with a lot of guys who I was really excited to see once they got to the next level. And there's still been some other people who have piqued my interest, and I'm sure that's the same for you guys. We can kind of do some quick hitters before the guys we really dive deep into, but who are some of the guys for y'all that have kind of grabbed your attention?
I'll say Trey Johnson. For me, like he just looks like someone who's going to score a lot of points this upcoming season. He's just gonna have ample amount of opportunity with the way that roster is constructed. Someone else would be Jeremiah Fears. He's like, there's a lot of guards on that Pelicans team, so I don't know how much runway he's gonna get, but I mean, he looks good. They said he's grown an inch since he's been like on the Pelicans, so it's gonna be interesting to see those two guys for me, how they like adapt to the league and how long it takes them to like get into the grooves they got into in college.
Yeah, I think they're not all rookies, obviously, but I think everybody on the Wizards who's still kind of in that younger core, they've got a lot of second-year guys too. But Trey Johnson especially, I'm kind of interested to see how he fits into that for sure. And he's going to get a lot of shots because they want to play fast, even if they don't necessarily have the best offense from what it sounds like. So him for sure, and we know he likes to gun it. Yeah, I think also everybody on the Nets, like, because I think when they had their draft, it was one of those that was like, huh. But from I guess just hauling rookies and young talent, this could be a interesting team because they all have like skilled passers who have good feel for the game. So, they might not all be getting serious run here early, but I do want to see how they look throughout the season.
Yeah, I would say some other rookies that I'm excited about. We talked a little bit about the Jazz, but Walter Clayton Jr. had a really big preseason game, 20 points, The jump shot looks good. It looks as good as it was in college. So he's not going to start. They've got Isaiah Collier, Keontae George, some of these other guys, but their backcourt's going to be looking a little bit different. No more Colin Sexton, no more Jordan Clarkson. So, if it gets into the portion middle of the year where they're already firmly out of the playoffs and even the play-in that insanely tough Western Conference, I'm not going to be surprised if Walter Clayton Jr. is getting 20, 25 minutes off the bench and he's putting up some big numbers. So I'm excited to see what he can do in that kind of spark plug role off the bench.
Yeah, for sure. I think, we all saw what he did at Florida. And I think he's a guy who, even though he's kind of small, he has great feel for a guard. And I think even in some of the preseason, because I did see a little bit of him yesterday when I turned to it, he reads the floor very well. And I think that's apparent even at the NBA level. So yeah, those were our quick hitters. But now some of the guys who we want to go a smidge deeper on, I guess. We all kind of shared people who we had before. Cameron, I know you said, I forgot who you said before we went live just now, but I remember when we did before we were both kind of talking about Carter Bryant.
Carter is definitely one of those guys for me. Like, he's like, the two guys I was like debating between are Carter and Cedric Howard. They're like really, they're kind of interesting to me for the same reason, because like they're guys that are like, it could kind of go one or two ways. Like, they could not really find their footing fast and then kind of end up kind of swinging between G League and the regular team throughout the year. Or like if like they make shots, their defense is at such a high level, if they just make shots and are able to contribute on offense at all, they could almost end up cracking the starting lineup for their team. So like both of these guys are like guys I'm watching really closely, because like they could really have a big impact on like teams that are going to be fighting for like the difference between playing and solidly in the playoff teams. So those are two guys I'm really watching closely. Coward, I think Wells will definitely start at first. I think there's a potential with like how many guys they have out that he plays so good at the start that you might have to look at starting both of them together. And Carter, I just think is like, he's really, really good on defense. The offense does seem to be a little bit behind where we thought it might have been. But just with like how good his defense is, if he is able to bring like catch up on offense, I think he's another guy that's going to just be hard for them to keep off the court, just because he just provides another level of defense on the wing that some of their other wing players don't.
Yeah, Carter's in an interesting spot because when he was at Arizona, we didn't see too many like number one option type of stuff from him. We saw him shoot a lot of catch and shoot threes and a lot of good defense. And now he gets drafted to a team where he's going to shoot a lot of threes and play a lot of perimeter defense. So you almost kind of expect for him to get off the ground quickly in his rookie season because his role isn't changing all that much. Yeah, the defense is going to be better that he's going up against, and getting to an open space might be more challenging, but you're not drafting him at number 5 and telling him you are a kind of a role player type of perimeter player in college. Now come and run our offense. It's not what he's going to be asked to do. So I could see him, like you said, Cam, really having a good rookie season.
Yeah, I agree too, but I do feel like inevitably he's just going to be one of those guys who it's like, all right, we're going to have you cook up in the G League a little bit, and then we'll kind of go from there. And with the Spurs especially, because we kind of talked about it at the beginning, but I think with Harper, I think they'll give him a little bit more free reign because he's polished. And like for Carter, it's not like they're necessarily asking him to do as much, maybe, but I do kind of see it being like, okay, we'll let you go to the G League, get a little bit more comfortable, gain some confidence even, and then that's kind of where they build from there. But like by the end of the season, I could easily see him being, if they are in a playoff situation, him kind of being somebody who comes in, plays some extra minutes, gives you really good, like high intensity, high defensive minutes. I'm not saying they'll go on the same type of run and he'll have that same impact, but I think he could kind of do something similar to what Christian Braun did the rookie year against the Nuggets. And I think, if he can do that, I think he's done enough and accomplished the goal for the rookie season.
I really like that comparison.
Yeah, I like it too, especially because the Spurs clearly have a lot of wings. And I don't know how attached they are to keeping all of them. They're like a team for me that I'm watching and see what they do around the trade deadline. I think he could become a really big part of their lineup on the second half of the season if they clear out some of that logjam jam at their wing spot.
Yeah. And going back to Coward, he is somebody who I think the biggest storyline with him was he's coming off, he played 6 games maybe last year. I want to say that's right, maybe 8. But the point is, he didn't play a lot of basketball last season. And I think with Coward, he's somebody who, like you said, he could come in and contribute right away. But I think for him, he's somebody who I'm really interested to see in the long term, just because I think he maybe does have a little bit more of a higher ceiling than Bryant, per se. I'm not saying he's going to be a superstar in this league by any means, but I think the tools and the IQ and the shot are kind of there for him to kind of be a high-level starter in the long run. But the preseason game I saw, I think it was the first one. It wasn't really that good. But I think, I've kind of been going and following what other people are saying as they're watching, and they said he got better with each game. So I think that is kind of a positive for him.
Yeah, and I think with him it's more an opportunity thing. With the Grizzlies moving off of Bane, not really having a ton of wings to play. They have G.G. Jackson, they have Jalen Wells. Jaren Jackson starting the year hurt. E's out for a while, so even something their bigger wings, will have to probably shift down in the lineup. G.G. might have to play a lot of 4 to start the year. I think there's just opportunity for him to, if he's gonna be good, I think if he's, depending on how good he is right now, he'll be able to show it. We'll find out really fast how good he is.
Yeah, the Grizzlies, they have been begging for someone to grab onto this role as kind of a bigger wing and hold on to it in the starting lineup. They wanted Zaire Williams, G.G. Jackson's had ups and downs. They just got rid of Desmond Bane, so that's a huge void that they're going to have to fill somewhere in the scoring production. So maybe their luck is going to hit with Cedric Coward, and he'll just be that guy, and we won't have to be continuing to talk about this every single year where they've got Ja and they've got Jaren Jackson, and then the middle of that lineup is almost every single year it's a new guy. So yeah, he's got a big chance in front of him.
Okay. Yeah, and then is there anything else we wanted to add, or do we want to move on to the other rookie? Okay, I'll go with my guy. Carter Bryant was one of the guys I had listed, but for me, another person who I'm kind of interested to see is actually a early second rounder, but for me, I'm interested in Ryan Kalkbrenner this year because it seems like he might get some run at that center rotation. And, in the minutes that I saw the game against Dallas, I kind of knocked out multiple prospects that game. But he didn't look bad on either end of the floor, really. And I think it's kind of a similar situation to Zach Edey, where you kind of know he can come in and contribute. But I guess the question is, what is it going to look like when he's playing serious high-level basketball? But the difference between the Grizzlies and the Hornets, I don't think he's going to have to worry about that for a while. So I still think he could just come out and get solid reps, just kind of be an anchor down there until I feel like they're missing somebody in their center room right now. It's not.
They don't have a center room anymore, bro.
I know they traded Mark Williams.
Someone said still on the roster. Yeah, he's still on.
I thought they
traded him to Phoenix.
Yeah, they traded.
They did trade him to Phoenix. Yeah, I mean, he has a lot of opportunity.
But I just want to be sure because it feels almost too good to be.
They have Nurkic, I'm pretty sure, don't they?
Nurkic is on the Jazz.
Who the heck do they have at their center? I don't know why I'm blanking on.
They have Moussa Diabate and Mason Plumlee. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that's it.
yeah. So it feels like he could.
Oh, they have Baji too. Abu Baji.
Yeah, I should have checked this before I went live, but that was something I kind of made note of when I was watching. It's like, yeah, he's probably going to be.
He might start.
Yeah, and I think he started that preseason. Yeah, he did. He started that preseason game, so they're definitely.
He's probably walking in instantly as their best interior defender among those centers, I would say. Diabate is a good rebounder, but Kalkbrenner at 7 foot a million, he's going to be able to rebound the basketball. So if he's walking in as the best rim protector and can rebound the ball, set screens, yeah, he's going to be fine.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I guess one reason I wanted to highlight him too is because I think with the Hornets, their biggest question is the defense. And I'm not expecting him to really be an answer for them out there on the perimeter. But if he can give them some semblance of consistency out there, I think that could be really big. And, him just being the 7-footer, he moves decently well. Yeah, he's somebody who I'm really interested to follow kind of throughout the season. All right, Jake, did you give your guy yet or no? I don't remember.
I haven't yet, but we don't have to take too long on him because this will be the third one. But yeah, so my other rookie that I think we could take a little bit of a deep dive on is Kaman Maluach at the Phoenix Suns. I don't know if he's going to start right away, but I feel like the Suns are kind of in an interesting spot where the first half of the season, they're definitely going to try to compete, but just because of how stacked the Western Conference is, we could see Phoenix kind of hanging around that play-in. And at that point, why not give a guy like Kaman Maluach, who you drafted in the lottery, why not give him a shot to try to develop? I think he'll play throughout the beginning portion of the season, but in this specific stretch where they're trying to do everything they can to stay inside that top 8 in the Western Conference, I could see his minutes being a little bit limited, but definitely in the back half of the year, I think Kaman Maluach is going to be, if not the starting center, he's going to be playing very valuable minutes. And I feel like from what we've seen in the little bit of him in the preseason, it's been okay. It's been mostly interior work, but I really want to see if he can stretch out his offense a little bit to the mid-range and then, further back and further back, because that's really where the ceiling of Kaman Maluach takes off, is if he can be more of a 2 or 3 level scorer.
Yeah, I mean, the Suns have the Hornets syndrome that we were thinking about last segment. So it's like there's a lot of guys in front of him. They haven't really played him a lot this preseason. I'm wondering if he's working through an injury or something that we might just not know about. But he's definitely someone that he has a lot of upside, and I could definitely see the Suns season kind of going in the tank at some point, especially with how deep the West is this year. I think they're probably one of the 3 worst teams in the West. So I think there's an opportunity for him to get a little bit of run, especially because Mark Williams is always hurt. So yeah, at least in a backup role, he would probably get some.
Yeah, the Mark Williams injury, it's like an 80 injury. It's almost inevitable. So I'm sure, without a doubt, he's going to get some run at some point. I can already see the Twitter memes being like, oh my gosh, come on, Maluach is so good. So, yeah.
I almost wonder if he's going to be able to just pick up 8 to 10 just cleanup points per game, just from Jalen Green chucks or Devin Booker tough shots that just don't go down. He's going to make a lot of them, but you're not going to make every single one. So if he can just get offensive rebounds, tap-ins, putbacks, he could get 8 or 9 points per game just off of that.
I think if he can get on the court, I'm really looking to see how, if he's developed hands at all, is he a better rebounder than he was at Duke? And
I was just
can he handle the physicality of playing against some other centers?
I was just gonna bring that up because how many rebounds did he have in that? Was it the Final Four?
None.
Yeah,
0. I want to say.
I wouldn't be surprised if honestly part of the reason why they're kind of letting him, letting him sit on the bench and kind of develop is because how long has he been playing basketball? Not very long, and obviously we saw some of the physicality issues last year. I wouldn't be surprised if they're kind of just all right, we'll let you develop, learn the game the proper way, and then we'll kind of unleash you when we need to. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if that contributes to why he's kind of not been playing as much But it is preseason, so you would like to see him out there more. All right. If that's all we have, then we can move on to some of the NBA sophomores that we're kind of interested to see this year. I listed a few guys, but if you guys just want to focus on one each, it doesn't really matter. I feel like we'll kind of just talk about whoever we want to talk about. I think it'll flow naturally. But is there anybody who wants to go first, lead off with the guy they want to see or have more questions about?
My guy for the sophomores, speaking of guys who aren't getting the opportunity to play enough, Rob Dillingham is someone who I was super high on coming out of the draft last year. Someone who didn't really get the opportunity that I think he probably, I don't want to say deserved, because in the league you do have to earn your way on the court. However, like, how much the Timberwolves prioritized him in the draft, like trading up to get into like a pretty high pick, like 8 in the draft is where Rob was taken, really high. They traded future picks away from like for him, and to see him not play was kind of rough last year. When he did play, he looked good in spurts. When he made shots, when he didn't make shots, it was kind of harder to justify just because the defense was kind of where we knew it would be. Wasn't quite on par yet. But I think like he's kind of got a short leash last year. This year, I'm really interested to see how much he's going to play. He's someone I think has like an immense amount of talent, and the Timberwolves need him to be good. Like Conley, I think they've kind of reached their ceiling of how far Conley can take them as their lead guard. Just because, like, I just think at a certain point, like, he's just getting older, and it's kind of going to be diminishing returns, like, the older he gets. So, I think, like, ultimately their ceiling is going to be with, like, Ant Edwards kind of taking that lead guard role. But I think, like, Rob can be a really nice complement and running mate to him, especially because the Timberwolves have the infrastructure around him to guard. And I just want to see him get more of an opportunity. Like, he's someone that I think he has to like develop a little bit better decision making. Like in summer league, I can see him like kind of forcing himself like into how they want him to play, like kind of forcing passes, and that was creating some turnovers. I think if he like plays more like himself and kind of lets the game come to him, I think he'll find more success doing it that way. However, I don't know if that'll lead to more time on the court in this situation currently.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that jumped out to me listening to Finch last year was like outside of the defense, they really put an emphasis on him being a passer and like making the right play. And for what it's worth, he has kind of been a dribble heavy player, I guess, in kind of high school. College, I thought they did a better job of getting that out of him, but there still were some moments. But I do think there is kind of an added pressure to him and like to make the right play. And at times, like you mentioned during summer league, especially, it wasn't always the greatest. But I do feel confident that he can make it work because he's such a skilled, I don't want to say scorer, but he's so good at just creating space. And I think if he even gets to a point where he realizes like just off of him getting downhill and like breaking down one defender and maybe not even getting fully to the paint, but just getting that help to come off of whoever's rotating over, like even that in itself can be pretty deadly.
Yeah, I think a lot of what he's missing can be like fixed with experience on the court. However, like it is rough because like you might have to sacrifice winning in the short term in order to win in the long term. And with how competitive the West is this year, it's kind of hard to make the argument that like, hey, we really don't want to give up games because so many teams are so good. And the playoff race, like difference between like the second seed and the eighth or ninth seed could only be a few games this year. So it's kind of rough because like it's just a rough situation to be in because as a coach, I understand you have to win, you want to keep your job, but also not playing the guy that they drafted, like traded up to draft at 8, is also a way not to get your job. So I see how Finch is kind of in a tough spot here, but I think at the end of the day, playing Rob and at least seeing if he has it gives you a clear direction moving forward. Like I think you by the end of this year, if the Timberwolves are still like questionable about what Rob can do, I think it's beneficial.
Okay, that kind of led into my next question because I was gonna kind of do a little overreaction segment and like if it doesn't work out this year, when is the possibility that, or what is the earliest that we could see him maybe get traded? And if he does get traded, do we still think that it could work somewhere else, or do we think that other teams, inevitably, I feel like with as high as he went, somebody will give him a chance. Like if Cam Whitmore got a chance, surely he can. But I know me and Cam were kind of talking about the differences. But it does kind of feel like if he doesn't get it to work here, like where will it work?
And it's hard because like we were talking about it earlier, like guys like Cam Whitmore, like prototype wings with all the athleticism in the world, like they will always kind of have a home until they don't. Like eventually, those guys, like if you prove at like your third or fourth stop in the league that you can't play, then you go overseas and you average 20 points there and you have a good career. Guys like Rob, like they don't necessarily. The chances aren't as abundant as they are for guys like Whitmore because he is a smaller guard, and that we can just see, but like the last few drafts, like that style, that player type, that archetype is like not as like in vogue as it was a few years ago. So like the more time goes on, the less those players are getting drafted or like getting opportunities. So if you can't make it work with this team that's kind of like perfectly built for him to make it work, like they have shooting, they have the defensive infrastructure for him. Like there's only a select few other teams that could take a risk for him. And I don't want it to sound like I think like it's an indictment on him. I just think it's kind of the cards he was dealt. He, I think, really has to make it work this year. Like it needs to work because you could end up in like, oddly enough, a similar situation to his teammate currently of like a Bones Highland, somebody who was drafted, was expected to play and just kind of never found his footing. I don't want to see Rob's career end up like that. So I think this year's a really pivotal year for him.
Okay. All right. Do we want to move on to other guys? Okay. For me, somebody, actually his college teammate. And I think there's actually a lot of parallels in their situation. But I'm more hopeful that he can kind of show more of what he's done just because of the injury to Fred VanVleet this year. And that is obviously Reed Sheppard. But I think we talked about how the Timberwolves were kind of built for Rob to shine because of the defense that they have around him. But I think the Rockets, you could kind of, Sheppard, I don't think he has as much of the defensive questions. He still does have some. But I think the Rockets, obviously, they're on a whole nother level with Amin Thompson, Tari Eason, and I think their biggest question is just where can we get off like consistent offensive production and perimeter scoring outside of Kevin Durant. And with VanVleet out this year, obviously that creates a big opportunity for Sheppard. And from the little bit I've seen of him in preseason, he does look comfortable out there, you know, making reads, taking shots. You know, he does look a lot more comfortable this year to me.
Yeah, he looks good. He definitely has an opportunity with VanVleet going down. Like he has a runway to play. I think they'll try probably a mid first at the point, just because I think they want to see what he has, like as far as like on ball juice. But even then, like they kind of cleared out the guard room for him, so like there's nobody really to take that like backup point guard minutes. So I think he's gonna play a solid amount for pretty much the entire year.
I feel like Reed probably, he wasn't going to be good enough to just beat Fred VanVleet out of the position, obviously, especially last year. But I think most of the reason why he didn't play was because they just straight up didn't need him in order to win. They were one of the best teams in the West last year with him playing a very limited amount of action. So I'm interested to see this year if he comes out like extremely hungry and just completely takes off, because I don't even know if he's going to be like, he might be listed in the starting lineup as the point guard, but if Amen Thompson is running most of the offense and he gets a ton of opportunities to move off ball as a catch and shoot guy, we all know that he's one of the best shooters on that Rockets team. So I feel like his efficiency is going to be great, and it's just going to be, can he defend his position?
Yeah. I think even if he doesn't start, like him just getting like pivotal bench minutes, because last year at the start of the season, they would kind of come in, play him in the first half. Okay, we'll get you your little minutes, and then just to say we let you play, and then they kind of benched him. And then it felt like you didn't hear anything about him until I want to say he had like 20 against the Rockets near the second half of the season. No, he didn't have 20. He had a big game.
He had a really big game against the Thunder too late in the season. He had a few points.
Yeah, the Thunder is what I meant to say. But I'm just like, once he gets an expanded role and like he's had more than enough time to, let the jumper get settled in. But like if he's consistently coming off the bench and being, I guess, like their sixth or seventh man, I need to look at their depth chart because I don't remember it all. But yeah, I think if he can just come off the bench and bring solid production, like I just remember Summer League and when he was shooting the cover off the ball and everybody was already making the Curry comparison. I don't think it's going to get to that point, but he has such a good feel for the game and, he knows when to attack and like when to shoot the ball. Like he is somebody who I think once it gets going, like he'll be a guard that's in the league for a long time.
Could you see him being kind of like Ty Jerome last year with Cleveland where, in a spot where they need him to start, he can do it, but he's just a huge spark plug and he's just coming to run that second unit as like the main shot creator?
Yeah, I think almost undoubtedly that's kind of what the role is going to be, just because Amin is way too good of a playmaker to, I think, really dislodge him. Maybe though Ime will experiment and put him in the lineup at some point just to see what it looks like. But yeah, I think for the most part, that's what his role will kind of look like, at least this year with the Rockets.
Yeah, at least be out to start the season. I can see him maybe taking a point range later in the year, just in case, like, because Amin is going to be asked to do a lot this year. Like, it'll be his first year as point guard, and then he's also like their best defender. And like in a way, like those two things kind of don't correlate. Like you don't have to sacrifice something to get the other. So I think if they get at a point in the season, they feel like he's not really being successful as the point, and his defense is lacking, I could definitely see them like sliding him down the lineup to like the 3 or the 2, then like insert Reed there.
Okay. And then Jake, do you want to go over your guy?
Yeah, so I think my sophomore to keep an eye on is going to be Devin Carter. I mean, he's pretty close to cutting his hair off. I saw he started to wear a headband. No, I'm just kidding. I have a couple of guys that I'm kind of keeping my eye on, mostly from this 2024 class. I don't know if you guys have been seeing Khalil Ware in Miami. He's been having some really impressive preseason games. Again, obviously it's only preseason, and he's playing alongside Bam Adebayo. But if he can kind of get unlocked this year and get even more minutes, more action offensively, I mean, we saw when he was in college, he was one of the bigger recruits going into college, and he was a second-year player to go into the NBA. So maybe it takes that second year, now that he's in the NBA, before he really becomes one of the better players on the Miami Heat. So definitely keep an eye on Khalil Ware. And then he's not necessarily down in the draft class, but I think Ron Holland with the Detroit Pistons, this Pistons team is probably going to be one of the best teams in the East. So I'm excited to see what he can do in year 2. What developments has he made in the offseason? Is he going to, be more versatile as an offensive player? Or is he going to just kind of stay as a downhill guy that gets to the rim with ease? I think he's going to be really good.
So yeah, this was our overview of the 2025 rookies heading into the new season. It should be an exciting rookie class, and I'm excited to really get into the regular season and see how these guys evolve. Not just our rookies, but our sophomores too, as we just talked about. Yeah, there's a lot to be excited about this year, and I'm ready to go. It's been a while since we've had real competitive basketball, and I've just been fiending for it. So, anything else you guys want to add before we sign off?
Nah, I think we're good. We got 1 week? 1 week till regular season?
1 week. I'll be at Nebraska BYU this Saturday. So.
Oh, okay, yeah, definitely keep an eye out for that.
I was sad because I went to look at the schedule to see if it was going to be on TV. And it's going to be on Big Ten Plus. I don't have that, so.
How many minutes you guys think AJ would play in that?
We're going to talk. I think I might have that DN login still.
Oh, I forgot about that. Low key? Okay, yeah.
Minutes. He might. I'm guessing he's gonna start in like they run the scrimmages a lot of times like actual games. I remember like Kansas and Arkansas scrimmage last year, and it was like felt like a real game. Like all the starters played real minutes.
Yeah, the Rutgers St. John's game that felt like a real
actual game.
Yeah, because that was close too. But yeah,
dude, the first post up of AJ Dubonsa against Price Sandfort is going to be so funny to watch.
Clear.
I hope Nebraska like actually packs that out. Like I doubt it'll be crazy.
It's not. I haven't bought my ticket yet, but the last time I checked, it was like $17 and $20 tickets left. So I'm like, it's probably going to be empty.
The people of Lincoln don't know what they're about to see. They don't
know what they're missing.
And like
I was talking to my teacher, and he was just like, "Yeah, I'm gonna sell the tickets. It's like not nothing special." I'm like,
people got to put more respect on these NBA talents. And like the Huskers are going to play on Friday, so but yeah. Anyway, real exciting times here. If you enjoyed the video, remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys soon.